Welcome all of you. And before we start the workshop, let's spend a minute in silence. Invoke the divine being, the supreme being, and ask yourself, am I a tolerant person? And today, tell your, let me explore the different ways of being tolerant at workplace, at home, in different situations of life. And from this workshop today, I can get many tips on how to make tolerance a natural part of my life. And one more thought, let me not tolerate in a compulsive way, but tolerate at my own free will, making this beautiful quality of tolerance as a power. As in Hindi we say, सहनशीलता जो गुण है उससे सहन शक्ति में परिवर्तन कर दें. So with this beautiful thought, let's move on to the workshop today. So welcome all of you again, and thank you for joining on time. So we are almost nearing 40 participants. We are expecting around 60 to 70. And quite a few new people I can see. So just for them, we are doing these since last December, the workshops. We have started them on these values. We did on love. I always keep saying that. I love it when I say that. We did 3 episodes, or 3 rather workshop parts in the month of February, the month of love. And followed by that, these are the other ones which we have done. And the last one in August was discipline. So with this, let's move on to, I'll stop sharing the screen and I'll also introduce my facilitators who are there. So we have with us Anu sister from Canada. Then we have Sister Shivani joining from Delhi, and also Sister Preeti joining from Delhi. So welcome all 3 of you. And I will now pass it on to Anu sister for the first activity. Over to you, sister.
Thank you, Brother Manoj. So we'll start our activity with this spiritual drill, as we always want to start that. And as, of course, in the session, we will be exploring on the power of tolerance or the benefits of tolerance. As we start with this spiritual drill, we will get that highest spiritual direction from the Supreme Soul, the highest being. Just like our parents give us direction or order, or they give us guidance, that is always helpful for us in life, whether we understand at that moment when we get the guidance or not. So today we will listen here that the guidance from the Supreme Soul is that tolerance is a power, because it is about claiming the right or power over the self, where we can be patient, we can be calm, and that's what, with tolerance, we can give to our situations that can be resolved. So you will hear it is an order from the Supreme that can you tolerate with happiness, with willingness, like Brother Manoj mentioned, it should be with free will and with the love for the truth. with love by understanding the benefit of tolerance, but not with compulsion. So, and also it is about when you are in a situation, don't look at the situation, but look at the highest spiritual guidance or bring God in your consciousness and tolerate. So it's a beautiful video. Let's watch it. There will be English subtitle, and we are ready to watch it.
समझते हो कि झूठी बात में हम साथ रंग बात में हम क्यों साथ करें, लेकिन सहन करने की आज्ञा किसने दी है? झूठ बोलने वाले ने दी है। कई बच्चे सहन करते भी है, लेकिन मजबूरी से सहन करना और मोहब्बत में सहन करना, इसमें अंतर। बात के कारण सहन नहीं करते हो, लेकिन बाप की आज्ञा है सहनशील बनो। बाप की आज्ञा मानते हो और महात्मा की आज्ञा मानना, ये खुशी की बात है ना। कि मजबूरी है, तो कई बार सहन करते भी हो, लेकिन थोड़ा मिक्स होता है। मोहब्बत भी होती है मजबूरी में। सहन कर ही रहे हैं तो क्यों नहीं खुशी से, मजबूरी से वो व्यक्ति सामने आता है तो मजबूरी लगती है, और बाप सामने आवे कि बाप की आज्ञा पालन कर रहे तो क्या लगेगा? मजबूरी लगेगी कि मोहब्बत लगे। Chivas, Vitolcha, Vache, कब तक मरने मरना नहीं है लेकिन अंधकार पर क्या करें मरे मरना नहीं वरना शब्द खत्म कर दो
So that was the drill. I'm sure we all experienced it deeply within us and taking. And as we'll move forward with the session today, I'm sure we'll take tolerance as power with us. So now to move forward, I will hand it over to Sister Sister Preeti, for the next exercise.
Okay, thank you, Anu sister. I think Preeti sister has some connectivity issues because she's locked off. So I'll just take the next activity. So welcome all of you. So after this drill, I'm sure now it's an order from the divine being that you have to tolerate things, and it is you have to tolerate a very beautiful word, out of love, not out of compulsion. So I actually in the starting when I said it was my free will, my willingness, but here we are asked to go to a very higher level, to the level of having love for everyone. And then when you are loveful towards everyone, then tolerance becomes very easy. So let me just share the screen, and let's go on to the first exercise and see whether is this practically possible or not. I'm sure it is. All of you do agree, and we'll get some more insights from you all. Uh, so the first activity is about being tolerant. So let's sit back, relax, recall an incident from your past life wherein your tolerant behavior or action has helped to resolve the situation in a worthwhile way. I'm sure there are many examples which you can recollect right now. I've just written a few for you. A fight with a very close friend, and then there's always tu मैं कौन tolerate करे मैं क्यों हमेशा करूं. So there you are, a grumpy child at home, a very typical scenario with small kids or even an adolescent kid. We have these problems nowadays. An angry spouse, or even anyone who's angry either at workplace as well, or even I must say traffic rage, going on the traffic and someone just overtakes you, or someone is just very rash in driving and you're actually scared because of his rash driving. So you really have to tolerate in that situation. You really can't do anything. So many different situations in life. So recall such incident whereby your tolerant behavior has helped to resolve the situation. And after you recall that, I'll give you a 2-3 minutes, but just reflect on these two questions. First is, what are the benefits of being tolerant in that situation for self and others? So benefits. And second is very important. What are the reasons for not being able to be tolerant always? The word comes always here. We try to tolerate people on and off, but then when it comes to the same thing happening again and again, why me? Why me? Why should I tolerate? Why can't the other person? Blah, 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 whatever. So we'll just reflect on these two questions. I'll play the soft music and the questions are still in front of you. So reflect for the next 2-3 minutes on these questions. So quickly also reflect on the reasons, very important. Unless we know what is the reason I'm not being able to be tolerant always, I won't be able to work on it. One more minute and we move into the sharing mode. Yes, so welcome back, all of you, tolerant people, waiting eagerly to share. So let's move on with your sharings. You all can either raise your hands or answer in the chat box as well, and a few people can speak. So anyone is ready to share? Yes, I'll come to you, Vijay Bhai, in a moment. Let us give the newcomers a chance. Yeah, so I'll also read the chat box sharings a bit later. I want people to interact. I know in India it's the dinner time, supper time, but please bear with us because we have changed the timings of late. So yeah, anyone wants to share verbally? Okay, so I'll just in the meantime read in the chat. Sanam is saying, Sanam, I'll just read it because you have mentioned benefits for the self. Anu sister, if you can just write it down. Builds up patience, fantastic. Benefits for others is helps them to realize their mistakes and transform themselves. Okay, good. I hope Anu sister, you are catching up with my speed. And the main reason for not being tolerant, she's saying, is ego. Fantastic. I like that answer, Sanam. Jujar, go ahead. Yeah, go ahead, Jujar. You can. I hope you can unmute just a moment. If you can't, I'll just give you the access. Just a minute. Too many things opened up. Yeah, I think now you can do. Yeah, go ahead now, Jujar Singh. Yeah.
Right. So maybe one thing is because of like the you mentioned illogical reasons or you being angry. Um, but maybe it delays the problem. Um, and maybe you don't get your way the next time. That's why you don't do it. So you could get your way.
Okay, get your way and okay, fine. So that's the reasons and benefits quickly. Any benefit of tolerating?
Um,
Okay,
I'm
no
not
worries.
sure.
That's okay. Yeah. So I'll just read on the other messages. Quite a few sharings have come. Pooja is saying benefit is peace for self and others. Beautiful peace. That's the answer. And also she mentions, I think I just saw it somewhere and there are many answers. So yeah, the reason is difficult to tolerate all the time when one has to keep tolerating the same thing over and over again. So I think the repetitive mistakes or what's the repetition, that is the reason. Yeah, so Vijay Bhai, go ahead now. I'll just come to you as well because you had raised.
Om Shanti, please accept, dear brothers and sisters, a greetings of love, peace, and happiness, and particularly on our 75th pre-Independence Day. Independence means not dependent upon. When we have this attitude of being independent, we become tolerant. And when we become tolerant, we are a flying farishta and we are free of our ego. So the advantage of being tolerant always is that you will have a environment very peaceful, and whosoever is around you in that situation or that circumstances, they will that time will understand that how tolerant this gentleman was there while the other man was so angry. And those who was affecting, who was angry, will also realize in his heart that this gentleman, in spite of mistake at that time, you don't understand it's your mistake, But I know the incident, and that's why he said the mistake was for other man, and he shouted at me for continuously 5 minutes at a petrol pump.
Yeah,
And all
Vijay
petrol
Vijay bhai, I'm sorry to interrupt. So I got your advantages, the benefits which you have immensely said. We are asking if you can quickly answer that second question. What is the reason that we are not able to do always? I know we should be doing it always for all the benefits which you have mentioned beautifully. But if you can just cite one reason why we can't be always tolerant, only one reason.
only once, when we don't know the truth that we are soul, and the another is also soul. So if we are
Perfect.
brotherhood, we are free
Yeah.
of ego.
Yeah, so thank you so much. So I was just wanting that, and fantastic. So the reason is we are not able to consider, or just say simply put it up, Anu sister, you can write soul consciousness, lack of soul consciousness. Thank you, brother. Sorry, I actually had to cut you because I wanted to get you all on track, because the question is about always why we are not able to do. That is the reason. So thank you, brother, and all the advantages which you mentioned. I'm sure Anu sister has written it. Others
And
can
thank you,
raise.
brother. Thank you, brother. It's a tolerance.
So let us just move on. There are many sharings, and I'm sorry, I hope I don't miss people. So Gulshan is saying the reason is strong attachment with expectations. Good. And again, ego. And third, he's also saying inability to face the change. Yeah, good one. Inability to face the change. These are the reasons for not doing toleration all the time. Sister Denise from Vancouver is saying advantages: put a stop to the negative situation. So full stop to negative situation. It strengthens the soul and helps the other soul. Okay, great. We move on to Subhash. He's saying maintain stability. That's the benefit. Then we move further. Preeta is saying, right, we feel like a winner. Yes, I'll say in Hindi. I know I should not be speaking in Hindi, but yeah, I mean, let me control myself. Yeah, it's gives you a good sense of winning over the situation when you are able to tolerate, because sometimes people consider tolerance is a weak, is a aspect of the weak. No, but someone who's able to tolerate is actually very, very strong, I must say. Therefore, all the mothers in the audience, hats off to you, because you all really tolerate it much more better than the male counterparts. I do agree on that. Dr. Kiran Bala is saying it benefits, as the benefits are it saves time and energy. Beautiful. Renata is saying I remain peaceful and help others also remain peaceful. Right. Okay. And also it helps us in finding solutions rather than getting stuck to the problem. Beautiful. So we become more of solution seekers rather than getting stuck in problems. Wow. Shruti is saying expectations make it difficult to stay tolerant always. So that's the answer, the reasons. So the reason is expectation from the other person. And we expect them to be perfect all the time, which is also a bit challenging. I think today you all are in a mode, you all just want me to do the talking work and just read up from the chat boxes. We still have 3-4 minutes. So if you all are motivated to speak up, you all please do that. Kavita is saying again, the benefits are stability and flow of positive energy. Beautiful answers, very deep answers are coming. So we know all the advantages of tolerance, but difficult to practice it all the time. Jujar is saying, yeah, Jujar, you completed your thing. So the advantages he's saying creates a good environment in the future. Kavita is saying reasons are again expectation. I think this answer is rocking. Expectation from people that I have tolerated. Why is that person not at least tolerating once, at least once, ek bar? So that reason, that is the main reason. Yes, Preeta is saying old sanskar. Yes, again, so that is the reason. Then Kiran Ben is saying, wow, that sometimes we feel being exploited. Yes, that is the reason. Correct. Deepak Bhai, sometimes we lose our cool, so we are unable to tolerate always. So Anu sister, I'm sure you're writing it down. I have been a bit tolerant. Not tolerant.
Can you repeat the last two things, brother?
Yeah, I'll do that. So when we lose our cool, so again, losing our cool is the reason not to be able to tolerate always. And Kiran Ben is saying we feel exploited when we do it all the time, right? Eva's sister is saying the reason for not being tolerant is thinking about the past mistakes. So brooding, I'll just put it in one word, brooding about past. And benefits is peaceful atmosphere. So I think that is covered, peace. Okay, so anyone still, the messages are just going on and on. Anyone wants to share? Michael wants to speak. I see some new faces. Michael in the audience, or anyone from Vancouver, because now we have suited it to the Vancouver timing. So might as well the west coast of Canada wake up and speak a bit. Sister Harpreet or anyone else?
Yes, Om Shanti, brother. Just giving a
Go
chance
ahead.
to others. For me, is the benefits is keep your energy stable and calmness. So you're giving that to others. So that, and the reason is, I think when we are not full ourselves and some attachments. So that is we need to check is the reason we are not staying tolerant.
Okay, right. Thank you. Thank you so much. Michael, I actually hadn't read your answers. So to tolerate, you have to activate your mind and intellect. So the advantage is probably your mind and intellect get activated. He's also mentioning tolerance is the fortress of the soul. Beautiful word. So it's a fortress. It's like killa, we say. Killa, I mean, fortress is something which signifies safety. So when you tolerate someone, it is actually for your safety, right? Shivani Bhain is saying instant gratification. That is a benefit. Dinesh is saying maintain cordial relations. Okay, good. And last, I'll just take Vinayas. Not able to tolerate always because we again unknowingly become slave of our minds, chatter, and negative emotions. Okay, beautiful. So unknowingly becoming slave of our mind. That's the reason, Anu sister, unknowingly becoming slave of our mind. So I think if Anu sister, you can just quickly share the responses and we'll just see what. So the rocking answer, the reason which was that we feel exploited and we expect the other people to keep doing it again and again. The benefits were immense. Let us look at the benefits. It builds up your patience. It's for peace of you and for others. It builds a peaceful environment. And as Brother Vijay was saying that it maintains the decorum of the place and the soul to soul connection also gets enhanced. It saves time and energy. And it also keeps you cool. I think coolness was also another answer. And reasons for not being, as I mentioned, yeah, ego was the one thing which many people had said, expecting from others, old sanskars, yeah, beautiful reason. And also not being able to tolerate repeatedly, as many people said, is because of your expectations from them all the time and brooding over the past as well. So fantastic answers. And with this, I move on to the next activity now, and I pass it on to Sister Shivani. Over to you. Thank you.
Thank you, Brother Manoj, for this lovely activity. I'll quickly pick that up from there. I hope you're able to see my screen.
Yes, yes, we are. Yeah.
Okay, great. So now that we've understood what are the benefits of tolerance and also what are the reasons why we are not tolerant sometimes, let's stay in that frame of mind and let's go deeper with a visualization. This visualization is taking us towards a thought that tolerance is a power. Right? With that thought in mind, let's go and dig deeper. I'll just play quickly some music.
And maybe make it full screen as well, Shivani bhai.
Okay, 1 minute, please. Is it full screen now?
Yes, yes.
Okay. So let's just pause and reflect and focus on our breathing. Take a few deep breaths in and out. And slowly focus in your eyes and see yourself relaxing. Imagine yourself in your home. Your home is clean and everything is in its place. It feels so pleasant. It's just perfect. after a hectic day, finally you have a complete sense of calm and peace all around you. And you cherish this moment. Now imagine a loved one entering the house. This is someone you deeply care for and look forward to spend time with. But today, something doesn't seem right. They look frustrated and upset. And suddenly starts speaking loudly and whining. And you feel a sudden surge of negativity radiating through them and cutting through the calm. There is nothing. You're now faced with a choice. Either to get pulled into the negativity or to stay strong and choose inner peace and gain the calm back. Visualize the divine light sparkling within you. It guides you to the path of tolerance, and you choose to stay quiet and look at the good things this person has done for you in the past. And suddenly feel the positive and loveful radiations passing through you to this person. Slowly and steadily, this person comes back to their normal breathing. And miraculously, things go back to normal. What could usually end up as a negative experience now turns into one of wonder. So I think with this visualization that we just did, keep that in your subconscious mind. And with this deep understanding that tolerance is both a virtue and a power, let's now reflect on what are the different methods that we can adopt in our lives to grow the power of tolerance within. So let's take another couple of minutes and reflect on the various methods that we should be adopting to get tolerance within ourselves. You can start sharing in chat. And if anybody would like to share or speak up on what are the various methods that we feel that we can become more tolerant and we can grow tolerance within us. Sanam, you've raised your hand. Would you like to speak?
Yes, am I audible?
Yes, Sanam, you are. Please go ahead.
Yeah. Okay, thank you. Method which I always adopt in my life is any virtue is a seed, and I try to use it again and again. I just water it. Initially, it is difficult, but now it has become natural.
Very
So
nice.
we have to water it by using it, and it is very helpful for others also to realize their mistakes.
Right. So
And it
focus
really
on
works.
what virtues is what you're referring to, Sanam. Right? Focus on your
Yes,
virtues, water your virtues, nurture your virtues.
right.
Thank you so much, Sanam. Anybody else? Vijay bhai, I'll come to you as well. Yes, Sanam, you want to say something else, or we'll give somebody else also a chance to speak?
Shivani Behan, I don't know,
Yes.
there's a big problem since you started speaking, you're cutting all the time. So visualization maybe really were not able to appreciate, but that's okay, it's done. So maybe you can just put your this thing here. It's just maybe when you speak, because it's cutting a bit. I don't know what's the, is the Wi-Fi?
Better?
This is, yeah, slightly better. So I think it is the problem with the earphones. Okay, go ahead, yeah.
Okay. So Sanam, we heard that you saying that nurturing your virtues or watering your virtues is important. Anybody else would like to say what are the different methods that we can use to grow tolerance within us?
Shanti,
I
can I
see
say?
chats. Yes, Kiran Balaji, please speak.
When it comes in relation to a person, I think that every person is different, every soul is different, and he or she is playing his own part. So I have to watch it and tolerate it, accept it, not tolerate in the
So
real
everybody
sense.
is playing a
Accept
part.
it.
Acceptance is what brings tolerance. Very nice. That's a very nice aspect that you mentioned.
And if it is
Yes,
a
please.
situation, then I think that whatever is happening is probably better and it's beneficial because drama is beneficial for us.
Okay.
If I
So
fail to
everything is
achieve something,
Kalyankari.
yeah.
Everything beneficial. Very
If I
nice.
fail to achieve something, I tell myself that probably that was not for me and something better is in store for me. So I should move forward and don't
Very
get
nice.
upset by that failure.
Very nice. Thank you so much. Thank you so much for sharing that. So move forward, let go and move forward. That's also very important to grow tolerance. Sister Rachna says that understanding the depth of the eternal drama and practicing putting a full stop. That's another very good way of growing tolerance, putting a full stop. It's okay, let go, finish. Preeta sister says staying detached. If intolerant, it can drain your energy. Very true. Intolerance and arguments drain energy. Being tolerant, finishing off, staying detached, it retains our energy and it in fact restores our energy. Misunderstanding of the situation. While tolerating, do it lovingly. Garima sister says that. Very nice. So love for everyone. That is, I think, one thing that can help grow tolerance. We need to create an atmosphere of acceptance. Again, acceptance is one thing that is coming very common. So I think acceptance leads to tolerance. Shruti sister says emotionally disconnecting and just observing, right? Sakshi, very true. So sometimes we just need to be witness every time, we don't need to act. So thank you, Shruti sister, for that. Would anybody else like to share, add, any raised hands?
Yeah, if you trust yourself, then instead of reacting, you know that you can find a solution. And this is helping you to go beyond whatever is happening. So, but you have
Very
to trust
true.
yourself. Yeah. Okay.
Very true. So trusting yourself, Brother Michael, I think that's very important. Having trust on your own self helps you become more tolerant, correct?
And
Anyone
just
else?
adding to, just adding to the brother's point,
Yes, please.
having a high self-respect and not feeling threatened by the person or the situation, then I don't need to become defensive or offensive, but I
Amazing.
can just sit back in my seat of self-respect and just let
Great.
the situation or the time pass.
Very
Go.
true. So I think self-respect is very important. Dignity, self-respect, and having trust on yourself. These are very important
And not
things.
to feel threatened by, because I'll not be harmed by anything.
Not to
So
feel threatened.
if I feel
So
threatened, then I become defensive or offensive.
absolutely. So taking control of your own emotions and not feeling threatened, having that self-respect that nobody can harm me. Thank you so much, Brother Michael and
Never
Ashima.
never forget it is a game. Everything is a game. So if you have the awareness, consciousness of the game, it's maybe make easier, you know, the tolerance.
Did you say never forget that it is a game?
A game.
It is a game. Okay, yeah, absolutely. So everything, if you tolerate, you end up gaining and not losing.
No,
That is
but a
very
game.
important.
It's an Olympic Games,
Game.
you know,
Okay,
it's
keep
part of the
repeating.
game. Everyone is
It's
playing
a
a
game.
part, you
Okay.
know.
Yeah. It's a game.
Sorry.
It's a ploy. It's a game that we are playing, right?
So good. I mean, you know, this we were not able to understand. So it's gain, GAIN, and game as well, GAME.
Both the
So
things together. So it's a game and it's a game, and both apply very well here, Manoj Bhai. So thank you, Brother Michael, for bringing two perspectives in one. I think we are about time, so we'll leave it to that. And thanks all for sharings which are still coming in. Brother Manoj, I think everybody is in a sharing mood today, but I will give it back to you in the interest of time. Please take it over for the next activity.
Thank you. You're very lucky. I think in the second activity, they started speaking up because they were not able to understand your visualization probably. And then they have started speaking now. So something push they needed. First exercise, they were not speaking at all. And we also fortunate Dr. Ashok Mehta has also joined us. So welcome, Dr. Mehta. Yeah, thank you. Yeah, so if you can just quickly show us this screen, Anu sister, the slide, and we'll just take those responses.
Summarize the slides, please.
Yeah, you want to do that? Yeah, you can quickly do in
No,
a
you
half.
can take it up, Manoj Bhai, that's fine.
Okay, I'll do that. So all of you have these beautiful understandings, and I'm sure we don't need to really teach anyone in these values workshop. You know, we just are in a mode of learning from each other. So beautiful points, very spiritual points, I must say, being a detached observer, trying to put a full stop, tolerate lovingly, very beautifully got out that love, as we did in the drill, the first drill of the day was about love. And not by compulsion tolerate other people. The way to increase also is understanding and accepting the person as they are, because we really can't change the people how they are, and regular meditation and drama is beneficial. Fantastic. So beautiful answers. Let me now start sharing my screen. Thank you, Anu sister, for tolerating with us or bearing with us and writing it down. So let's move on to what Nirmala Didi had said. I'm sure if you all are not attending, you'll better start attending the Values for Life series. So at the seniors of our organization of Brahma Kumaris, they really come out with so much of wisdom. And I remember Nirmala Didi distinctly mentioned, I'll tell you the points, I'll show you shortly, but she was more in a mode that she said, I'll want to answer more questions. So she's first half hour was only about a little bit of talk. And therefore, we have summarized it only in 2 slides for you all. So she got this out, traits of a tolerant person. Before I go there, let us just look at this tree. You can see on the right-hand side, the tolerant tree. And at Brahma Kumaris, in the Raj Yoga meditation course, we are taught this beautifully 8 powers, and tolerance, Sahan Shakti is one of them. It is depicted that if a tree is fully laden with fruits, particularly a mango tree, the more fruits, the more it will be always very humble, and always it will be on a lower level. It will always stay bowed down. And how do a child, if they want a mango, how do they respond that way. They just hit the tree. So they are in one way trying to challenge the tolerance power of the tree. But the tree is so tolerant, in return of even getting hit by a stone will give you fruits in return. So there it is, how tolerance comes. And it reminds me distinctly here in our teachings here in the divine versions, which we are taught here at Brahma Kumaris. A very beautiful, in Hindi we say, jitna sahan karoge utna shehenshah banoge. So I'll just translate it in English. So if you learn to tolerate, you'll become a king. There you go. So a tolerant person will not give excuses that because of he or she I got angry. He will just accept. So you all got it out beautifully. They'll be able to mold in every situation and without complaining. And as we were saying again and again, tolerance is a power. It is not a weakness. And Didi said, don't get upset, because when we get upset with anyone, either the situation or the individual, it upsets our state of mind, by which I mean you get disturbed. And when you are disturbed, then it no more remains a power. So even if you tolerate by getting disturbed, it is not a power, because you have affected your state of mind. Then the person has no waste thoughts. They're absolutely cooperative with each other. You'll discuss that in detail, the calmness and peacefulness that tolerance teaches us more and more. Another good thing is tolerant people won't be influencing others. She mentioned about this in detail that in Hindi we call this prabhavit hona. So, you know, sometimes when people behave differently with us, we feel, till what time should I keep tolerating? That's the reason we put this exercise, that what are the reasons we are not able to do always. So we are not able to do always because we see that there is something wrong in that person. So when we, you know, go in that what is called the Guna Grahak attitude, the attitude of picking up virtues and being appreciative towards everyone, then we won't feel that and we won't get affected by them. So looking at their wrong things, we won't get affected. And very important, Didi mentioned about having this attitude of mercy. We'll be having it sometime soon in the next year, a detailed workshop and talk, but mercy is a very important value. Then Didi mentioned, look at the situation, fly above the situation. We have it in our workshops, what we call an activity of SOS. S, the first S stands for putting a full stop, which you all have mentioned beautifully. O is the detached observer. Detach yourself from the situation, fly over it, as Didi mentioned. And then S is the last S of SOS is to steer, to change the direction. So Didi mentioned, sit in a flight, soar above the obstacles, go high, and then you'll see that all these whatever situations and people's behaviors, they are just like, you know, a small pebbles in front of you. Then she mentioned about a few virtues which we need to inculcate to develop more and more tolerance. First is acceptance. And whenever we start accepting people after understanding them, we turn to move from what is called expanse to essence. In the sense, we don't try to describe the situation to anyone in detail. We just say, it's okay, it's done, and I have tolerated, that's it. And Didi even went one level ahead when she mentioned that if I, you know, many mothers do this. I'm not trying to con the mothers in the audience here, but many mothers or many sisters, why am I targeting the sisters, the female gender? Because sometimes it is said that the female gender has to tolerate more compared to men, and men usually, the tolerance power is very low compared to women. So Didi was mentioning that if I tolerate, I keep tolerating, but if I get emotionally hurt and I keep going and telling it to other person all the time, you see, I tolerated this, I'm tolerating all the time, then that is really of no meaning. Because the second power which comes into play here is the power to merge or the power to accommodate. In Hindi, we call it Samane ki Shakti. So if I tolerate, I should also have so much of immense power in me so that I stop mentioning it. Because if I mention it, it is not tolerance. Then Didi mentioned that consider all these obstacles, which I told you all before a short while ago, to be toys. And in Hindi, again, we are taught at here in Brahma Kumaris, the teachings that many people, they convert their small problems into big things. So they convert it from small stones into a big mountain. So we are taught to convert it from pahad se rai banana. Otherwise, in Hindi, we say Rai ka pahad banate hain log, which means from small things they convert it to big things. So we have to do opposite here. Convert from pahad se Rai. Pahad means a big mountain, and Rai means something very small. And Rai is basically a mustard seed, just to be very specific. And mustard seed is basically something, if you touch it, it will feel a bit rough because of its structure. And again, here we are taught, go one more level further. Rai se bhi rui banao, which means you convert that mustard seed, the feeling of little bit feeling inside, I'm tolerating, convert that into rui. Rui means a cotton wool. Cotton wool is so soft, and you can just blow it with just one whisk of air. So by that, we mean that whatever big situations, you don't even convert them into small stones or small pebbles or even toys for that matter, but just to such an extent, you make it so light and you feel so light and just blow them away that nothing happened. So that is the ultimate which Didi was trying to mention about tolerance. I already mentioned converting mountains to molehills. You got this point beautifully out, all of you, that apply this one big solution, nothing new. And this will help you in applying the full stop to that situation. And again I say, aag lage basti mein, hum apni masti mein. Sorry, I'm using Hindi proverbs because there are many such, but I'll translate it also. That come what may, whatever is happening outside, difficult situations, but you be in your own state of bliss, I must say, in your own abundance, full of virtues, and you're knowledgeable. You know that this has just come. It is a passing phase of life. This too shall pass away, as the Gita mentions. So that the more and more we practice Raj Yoga meditation, that power develops in us. And here Didi mentioned about Brahma Baba, who was the founder, father of the organization, that he was defamed at n number of times when the organization started. And actually all his friends were converted into foes because he started this organization. But Brahma Baba was full of tolerance power, and he said that the people who have come to criticize me, we should actually be not affected by them, and we should go ahead and hug them. In Hindi, we say, gali dene wale ko bhi gale lagao. So even a person who is defaming you, he is doing it to improvise you or trying to make you a bit better. So try to accept, hug him, and make him take that as a positive feedback from him. Didi quoted this beautiful example of how fire can cook the food that nourishes us, but also at the same time it can burn down our house. So we need to know which power to use at what time, and we need to apply wisdom. Though we have the knowledge that the fire is used to cook food, but we also should be wise to make sure that we don't use it for our disadvantage. We'll take a few questions. The questions were very nice and practical. So these were all. The first one is about physical abuse towards me. My husband is beating all the time. How do I tolerate? So again, as Vijay Bhai pointed out, practice soul consciousness. And this is the beautiful concept, which also Gopi's sister will be covering shortly for you all, that how to inculcate this attitude of developing soul consciousness, and that comes through meditation. And we go beyond pain and the feeling of, oh, why does it happen with me? The victimization fully ends. Then second was, how do we tolerate with things happening outside, not in our control? Corruption, terrorism, rape, injustice in all ways. So Didi said that it is the fag end of the iron age, what we call Kali Yuga, and we cannot expect people to be as we want them to be. So have a merciful attitude and practice this policy of forgive and forget. Then someone asked a beautiful question. It was a doctor. How does one help a patient or an individual suffering from an incurable illness? So from a doctor's perspective, if there is pain, you obviously have to give painkillers. And Didi mentioned about euthanasia, a very sensitive topic. But euthanasia, for people who don't know, euthanasia, it means mercy killing. So some countries, it is legal, whereby if there's a patient, for example, of terminal stage 4 cancer, whereby the cancer has spread to the body to such an extent that you really can't do anything. So give them pain relief. And if they feel that they want to leave the body, they have full right. So some countries in Europe have that, and people, Didi mentioned, people go to those countries to have what you call death. So for pain, strong painkillers. Then as a senior BK, a sister had asked, what thoughts a person must have to practice forgiveness? So again, the most important rocking thought is have a merciful attitude. We say in Hindi, rehem dil, to have the attitude of being a merciful person. How does one tolerate repetitive mistakes? It came in the sharings here, I remember. So particularly if Didi mentioned that if it is happening at workplace, you should not be at loss. So please report it to the boss because it is a loss for the boss. A beautiful rhyming. Do I have to keep tolerating always? Can't the other person tolerate a bit? So Didi said, if you feel that's happening, go and speak to that person calmly, but don't get angry or upset. Again, my state of mind should not be affected by the people who are trying to ignite me. You have to speak up, but remember, if they do not change, despite you telling them, then it is their karma. So remember in life, Didi was also saying here that don't take responsibility for other people's actions. You can always advise them, give them your opinion, but finally it is their karma. And also, I remember Dadi Janki here, she used to say, don't take sorrow from other people, because sometimes people tend to test us, but don't take sorrow. I think we covered this in detail about tolerance, acceptance, and understanding. And lastly, I'll take this last question, that how can we use the power of tolerance, or how should we face situations when we are dealing with people's different sanskars? So I think today in the beautiful slogan which we had in the morning teachings here, that you should be able to know which power to use when. So when we are dealing with difficult situations, we should not tolerate the situation. We should be facing it with full courage and strength. And when it is someone's difficult sanskars, then obviously I need to tolerate that. There I don't need to face them and confront them. That's what Didi said. Yes, so with this, I'll just finish this. We have again, it's a big fortune. We have with us our very, very dear sister, Gopi. She's so generous and kind-hearted. She always, with the tick of the phone, says yes. This is the fourth talk from her side. So fortunate. And Sister Gopi, I'll just introduce you for the people who are new, because we always have new people. So Sister Gopi is in knowledge since almost more than 40 years, 1979. And she's though born in Africa, but educated in the UK. And she has almost surrendered her life now fully for Brahma Kumari since the 40 years, as I mentioned. Her primary attention has been on the spiritual empowerment of young adults. And she has overseen the growth of something called International Youth Forum, which we have at Brahma Kumaris from the UK. And she has coordinated these since the early 90s. And again, as usual, I'll say a few words first about Sister Gopi, and then a few words about tolerance, a small poem which I have started writing of late. And Sister Gopi told me, yeah, it's a good profession for me in future. So jokes apart, I'll just say about Sister Gopi. Being the IYF, the International Youth Forum coordinator, she's very well known far and wide because she's kept always the Almighty by her side. So she's well known far and wide. She's kept Almighty by her side, which in turn has kept always Maya aside. She indeed is so humble with no trace of pride. And with her insightful talks, she takes us on this beautiful ride. No pride, takes us on a beautiful ride and helps all the souls to take their own stride, but still giving them directions as a helpful guide. So it's their journey, they have to take their stride, but she's there as a guide still. And let me just speak a few words about the value of tolerance before we move on to Sister Gopi's talk. Today we go on this journey to stance, to learn a bit more in depth about tolerance, stance and tolerance. It will indeed give us a wonderful chance to look within and go inside to enhance and realize that there's a reason for everything in life. It's not just by chance. So let's try to have this wonderful chance, go inside to enhance. And this talk is happening today for a reason, not just by chance. So I'll stop sharing. And again, thank you so much, Sister Gopi. Welcome. And over to you.
Thank you. And good evening to everyone in Bharat. And wherever you are, good morning, good afternoon. I understand there's an international audience. Before we go on, I'd like you all to meet somebody. Paulina, can you come for a moment? I work a lot with young people, as you know, and I'm always fascinated to understand how young people see things. So today, Paulina, who's been helping with the technicalities of this, I asked her, can you define what tolerance is for me, please? And she very slowly uttered these words. And so she's going to utter those words to you now. Say hello.
Hello. So, tolerance is the willingness to expand and fill your heart with love and good wishes at the moment you dislike or you don't agree with something, you disagree with something. The right way of, when you tolerate in the right way, spirituality comes in. Om Shanti.
Did you enjoy that? Isn't that just so simple and beautiful? It's such a simple act of expanding your heart when you're feeling uncomfortable. So before we move on to the subject, I want to just take you into a little reflection on this. You've been sitting for an hour, and there's obviously places in your body that feel uncomfortable or don't feel tense. So just wherever you're sitting, just sit upright. And just scan your body for a few moments. There may be some tension in your stomach, shoulders, feet. Find a spot in your body that feels comfortable. Where in your body do you feel well? Clear, light, comfortable. Just locate that spot. And locate that place of energy in your body. Now, wherever that spot is located, that energy of comfort, allow that energy to expand into the rest of your body. So if the comfortable spot is your heart, and let the comfortable energy, whatever energy is there that you're comfortable with it, let that expand throughout your whole body. And as the comfort level grows in your body, just feel the dis-ease disappear. And as you breathe in and breathe out, breathe away any hidden tension. And wherever you're sitting, imagine your feet are going into the ground like deep roots of a tree. And the rest of your body is stretching up as a big tree. And the roots are filled with light. And they're extending into the tree. And it doesn't matter if there's places in the tree that are unwell or diseased. You as the light are much bigger. Allow your being to be light. Allow yourself from the roots to the top of the tree to become light. And as the light grows, the darkness diminishes. Om Shanti. We can talk about tolerance at a conceptual level, at a theory level, and yet at a level of practice, it's so simple. It's the act of expanding in goodness and in love. It's really simple. It's just an act. Any power is always just an act, but an act with some kind of energy. And of course, you know, some people talk about or have the understanding of tolerance as suppression, which is having to put up with something. But that's not tolerance. That's not the real definition of tolerance. And it's a heavy word, tolerance, and that's why I like to call it an act of love. In its very simplest definition, tolerance, the act of love. Tolerance, the act of understanding. And the act of equanimity, staying equal in all of life's polarities. So if it's an act, then how active am I in these acts? And this is where I want to just stop and just give you 3 questions to consider. So if you've got pen and paper, you're going to need it now. And I'm going to just ask Paulina to put the questions up on the screen for you. And we'll start with question 1. If tolerance is an act of love, and the question is, where in your life, or what in your life right now needs more acts of love? If tolerance is an act of love, where in your life, or what in your life needs more acts of love? Question 2. If tolerance is an act of understanding, what aspects of yourself or your life do you need to understand more? And try and narrow into something. If tolerance is an act of understanding, then what aspects of yourself or your life do you need to understand more? And question 3. If tolerance is an act of equanimity, i.e., staying equal in praise and defamation, victory and defeat, then in what aspects of your life do you need more balance? If tolerance is an act of equanimity, i.e., staying equal, whether there's praise or defamation, victory or defeat, sorrow or happiness, then in what aspects of your life do you need more balance? Okay, thank you. I hope some of the responses to these questions will have given you an opportunity to hone in on your own act and what you need to strengthen in your own act, because that's the only thing we can ever do in the face of adversity. many times, when we're faced with something big in front of us, it feels big only because we feel little. That's the secret, actually, because when you feel big, then everything else feels little. I remember sharing with Daddy a beautiful dream I had many years ago. And in this dream, Maya, you know, the whole subject of illusion, and she took on the form of this, you know, demonic temptress. And she came in front of me with her hands on her hips and she says, "So you think you can conquer me?" And I was this little. And I said, "Well, no, I don't think I can, but I know someone who can." And I think for me, that was so symbolic because so much of our sense of self-respect is often derived from our achievements, our external achievements, perhaps our external relations, perhaps what we've done, accomplished in our lives. And I've found that when my self-respect is linked with God and is linked with that relationship and who I'm in relationship with spiritually, then suddenly I can be myself. It's okay to be with flaws and with weaknesses. I don't have to be perfect because I have backup. And this is what I saw in Daddy Janki incredibly. Here is somebody that's a giant spiritual leader, and yet has this ability to be a child and a master. Because her complete sense of self, she let herself be defined through God's eyes, through God's presence, and in relationship with God. And, you know, I think it was an effort she made. And most of us, when I think about it, we've got our plugs put into different sockets. So we do love God, but I have this identity too. And for Daddy, I think because her self-respect was, she let herself be defined through her relationship with God, she actually became immune. She developed a spiritual immunity to negativity because she developed a spiritual immunity to the polarities of everyday life. You know, somebody poking at her weakness, saying, "Daddy, you're a bit like this." Okay, hand it up, come back down, say sorry, do what you need to do, move on. And nothing was ever taken personally because there was no ego to sustain. When you live in your pure ego, then how can you be insulted? You only feel insulted when something's touched the false identity that we've built for ourselves. So I feel that the subject of tolerance is rooted deeply in the sense of self. And of course, it has a very deep connection with love. And then that's why the foundation of an act of love, you know, speaking kindly to someone, an act of love, making the effort to focus your vision on what's beautiful about somebody, an act of love. Focusing on what's beautiful about yourself and expanding that is an act of love. So it's just expansions of nuggets of goodness. And, you know, I don't think of myself as a tolerant person, but I asked somebody today, could you define tolerance for me? And they said, Gopi. And I said, oh, really? And I realized that what do I do that I suppose makes me appear tolerant is that I have a very strict discipline of not focusing on anything negative. So if it's an interaction and someone's troubled and someone's coming up into me, I listen, but I'll look for the nugget and I'll bring the nugget out and I'll give the nugget. I'll expand the nugget. I won't expand the detail of the story and the trauma of the story, but I'm going to look for the nugget that they can work with and that I can work with that feels good right now. That's why I started with the activity of scanning your body. And even if your body is uncomfortable, there is always a part in your body that's comfortable. Focus in on that part, tune in on it, and expand that feeling so it encompasses your body. It's the same in spirit. You know, don't focus on the bit that's discomfort, because the moment your attention goes there, that's where the energy flows. And that's what then takes power and takes hold over you. So, you know, we have people in our lives. And of course, there are people that always press different buttons. But just for a moment, in your consciousness, wherever you are sitting now, just imagine there's a room behind your eyes, and it's the room of your mind. And it's an open space where you can design it how you wish. It's your private space. I'd like you to invite somebody into your room that perhaps you don't have a fully comfortable relationship with. So you hear a knock at the door, you go and open the door, and that person walks in. They've walked into your clean space, and of course you're not going to be rude to them, you're just going to invite them to sit down. Let them relax on the sofa or couch, and you sit down opposite them. And just let them relax, and you relax in that room. And then slowly, as you look into that person's eyes and being, what do you notice is beautiful about them? They're relaxed in your room. There's nothing to hide. They can be themselves. As you look into their being through their eyes, what do you notice is beautiful about them? Now visualize them in the fullness of that beauty, whatever that quality may be. Just see the light of that beauty and quality encompass them. And the light of that beauty fills your inner room. And it becomes your gift. You haven't said anything to each other. But as you see their beauty, your eyes look upon them with love. And they're so satisfied and happy in your company. And then they're ready to leave. You walk them to the door and thank them for the gift they've given you. You close the door and you're back in your room alone, but with an added vibration. This is an act of love. When we have said things to people that are not in line with who we are, we've spoken in anger, we've reacted, or we've done something that's caused somebody sorrow, we've taken sorrow, we've created perhaps a negative imprint of that person in our minds. And that's all we can see is the rubbish that's in them or the rubbish they've given us. And if that's all the intellect sees inside, then that's the first blockage that doesn't allow my love to come out. You know, I remember many years ago on the field of service, many things happen. And of course, you don't always see eye to eye with people. And I remember in one particular service project, the person I was very closely working with was very uncomfortable with a few things I'd done. And they'd written me a long email to say, you did this was not right, you have a big ego, this was not right, this was not right. I mean, pointing out all my defects and weaknesses. And I didn't know how to reply to that email. I remember printing it off and thinking, okay, so here's a long list of it. How do I reply to this? Do I reply to it word by word? Do I prove myself? And in that moment, when I just went into silence, I thought, well, no, just print it out and take it to Daddy. I mean, it takes guts to reveal what somebody has said about you to somebody else. So I printed it off. It was about 3/4 of a page long in English. And I took it to Daddy Janki. And she was in her bedroom and she took the email. She reads English really well. She used to read English really well. And I sat down by her feet and she was reading the letter. And I was bracing myself. I thought, okay, Gopi, Daddy's reading your letter. She's reading all your defects. She's reading your weaknesses. So brace yourself for a correction. And here I am making myself strong, saying, okay, you brought the letter to Daddy, so you've got to face the music now. And after about 5 minutes, she pulled down her spectacles and she looked at me and she waved the email at me and she says, if you're going to keep any of this in your mind, then what Baba has given you, what God has given you, isn't reaching that soul. And it was such a beautiful response because I realized that so much of my practice, my spiritual practice, is receiving from God, receiving God's love, cultivating peace, cultivating beauty in my life. And if mentally I choose to hold on to someone's rubbish in my mind, then all this richness I have inside me isn't reaching them. And I've created the roadblock. And so it will just sustain more and more complaints about me, because when people are complaining about me, what they're saying behind a complaint is only one thing: I'm not getting love from you. That's what they're saying. I'm not the recipient of what you're receiving from God in your life. And that was such a fundamental lesson for me. Everything starts here, and everything can be solved from here. You don't even need to actually come into a verbal apology with somebody. Of course, if that moment occurs in the drama and you can do it, it happens gracefully, it will manifest that moment, but you don't have to artificially contrive it or manipulate it. And so, wow, I've gone and said sorry, so I'm okay. But actually, you're still holding on to the rubbish in your mind. So, you know, we have a lot of etiquettes that keep us in good manners, but we're still, you know, kya kehte hain, Hindi mein sar raha hai andar, you know, it's still getting more and more rotten inside. So for me, it's so important to The act of love begins when I start to see someone differently and feel someone differently here. And that's very, very important. And so this very simple exercise of just inviting someone in your room, just letting them be comfortable. And you will have noticed when that person entered your room, you felt a bit uncomfortable because that's the energy that exists with you and them. It's okay. Just let them relax in a chair. You relax a bit and then just take your time to see the goodness and expand that vision so the goodness fills them. And that's the choice you make when you engage with them. And what you're saying is, I'm not going to engage with your rubbish. This is how I see you, and this is what I'm going to engage with. That's tolerance. That's why they experience you to be tolerant. It's a bit like, a mother's vision for her child. Doesn't matter what the child's like, she can see the nugget. And so she can, everything else is like, okay, fine. Just water under a bridge. So it's pretty much the same, I feel. It's what I am choosing to engage with, to speak about, to work with. My act of love in each moment, each relationship, especially here. And when I bring it down to something that's simple, it's doable. Because it's not about the other person at the end of the day. It's about my act of love. And increasing my activity of love. Because that's always the foundational challenge, isn't it? I remember many, many years ago, about 30 years ago in high school, and it was southeast England. It was a time when there's not many Indians around. I was in a conservative private school. I was the only Indian in that school. And I just arrived from Africa, and I had no language for bias, racial prejudice or racism. I had no language for it. I was so innocent and naive. I didn't even have a concept for it. So here I am arriving into school in England that has very limited understanding of where I come from. They think I come from the jungles in Africa because nobody knows a lot about Africa in those days. And then I'm faced with a lot of what now I understand to be racism, racial behavior, prejudice behavior. But at that time, I didn't understand why these three people especially would do silly things, lock your books up, take your stuff away, weird things. And I remember one day, and of course I had my own meditation practice at that time, remember? And I remember one day thinking, well, if I don't understand what they're doing, then surely they mustn't understand what they're doing. So I thought, well, maybe they just need a lot of good wishes. So I remember dedicating every morning, 6 to 6:30 in the morning, to sending these three people, especially that would give me a hard time, just a lot of love and good wishes, just this real feeling from the heart. May you wake up well, and a real sense of love and goodwill towards them. And it was a half-hour dedicated time I gave to that, to feeling good wishes in my heart. And I did that for a month and a half. And what I noticed over a period of time is their attitude started to change towards me. And the three people that probably gave me the hardest time, in about a couple of months, became three of my best friends, two of which I still remain in contact today. And I realized how important that time I gave to myself to cultivate and to give expression to my love as an act of good wishes, giving time to that practice, helped to transform the attitudes of people in my life. You can't just, it's not something that's done by and by away. It's an activity you have to do. Just like you have an activity to eat, you have an activity to drink, you have an activity to play sports. This is a spiritual, conscious activity you have to invest time in. And when that investment is made, and in that half hour, whatever it is, you really experience yourself as an embodiment of good wishes. That's what's changing the game out there. That's what's going to start to manifest the changes in attitude, the changes in reactions, the changes in, because attitudes change attitudes. So I do feel that perhaps that's why I asked you the questions at the beginning. If tolerance is an act of love, where in your life do you need to increase more acts of love? Give time to those acts so that you start to embody the feeling that you want to see in your relationship. And you know, the last question about equanimity is very deeply linked. Balance. There's this wonderful expression, balance brings bliss. Love, being loving in nature, the experience of spiritual love is very objective. The experience of physical love is subjective. That's why physical love can be selfish, because it's around an object, it's a person. And when it becomes selfish, you end up polarizing things in your life. Any form of love that's object-centered or subject-centered, it excludes other things in your life. It just creates an exclusive, and then people don't feel they have access to you. You're not energetically available to everybody in your life because you've made someone or something a focus, especially physically. That's what I found. And then, of course, when you get subjective and then you get attached, you get obsessive, you get possessive, all of those dynamics take over, which get talked about as love, but it's a corrupted love, because real love is objective. It creates a sense of space, freedom, a sense to really watch something grow as it is and what it is. And I remember many years ago, you know, Daddy saying to me, I understand you, but you don't understand yourself. And I said to her, you're right. You're absolutely right. And I thought, yes, I've been doing so much in my life, and I know that there's a stock of love there, but the love isn't activated because I haven't stopped to understand myself in what I'm doing and why I'm doing what I'm doing, to join up the dots and to see perhaps the hidden wisdom with which I'm operating in, or to see the little quirks that are getting in the way. So I do feel that self-understanding creates self-love. And that's the balance. The balance is the self-understanding, is the focus on the self. We are masters and experts in externalizing our focus, and yet internalizing our focus to just understand ourselves and treat ourselves a little bit more kindly. You know, I remember for many years, you override what your body tells you. And if you override something too much, it comes with a cost. And now balance means when the body's telling me something, the act of love is to listen to it and to give it what it needs in that moment. That's my act of love for the body. And I suppose that's what I saw in Daddy, but it took me a long time to learn it. I never saw her rushing her body in any way. There was always she had like a measured pace with everything she did. Whether she ate her medicine, it was a pill she had, just quietly, like she's feeding, it was an act of love, just giving herself medicine. Everything she did was an act of love. That's why she's probably going to be worshipped. That's why she became worship worthy. And I think that's the same for our lives. You know, we handle ourselves in very, I think, ordinary and, you know, unroyal ways. And I think when we handle ourselves with love and value and respect, that's the dynamic we create in our relations with others. So yeah, tolerance in its simplest form, it's expanding, an act that expands goodness and love. It's really simple. So either you see something good, you speak about something good, or you do something good. But it amplifies the goodness and minimizes the badness. And just in that ratio, you change the energy in a situation. You know, when someone comes to me and they're talking about how bad they are, and I say, well, have you thought about this? And have you thought about this? And have you thought about this? And you can do this, and that's possible. And in 2 minutes, the mood and atmosphere has changed. That's tolerance. You're expanding goodness. And that's a very conscious decision, and it's a conscious act and effort. Yeah, I'm very alert to that, because if I don't do that, I know how easy it is to absorb somebody else's rubbish. And that's when you let yourself get suppressed. And then you say, oh, I have to tolerate this and I have to tolerate that. And we don't tolerate anything. That's not what tolerance is. So I'd like to stop there and see if there's anybody who'd like to share anything. If anybody has any questions.
Yes, fantastic. As usual, your perspectives are really mind-blowing. And thank you for taking us in a very workshop mode today with those 3 questions, which set the tone of the talk, actually. And there's one question which a sister was asking. I'll just read it out for you, that where does tolerance end and where does self-respect begin? I'll just clarify it one more time. She's explaining that where must one stop tolerating quietly and start speaking for oneself?
So the question is not about tolerance. The question is about communication. I think that's what it sounds like to me. It's like communicating how you feel and what you can do and what you can't do. That's the challenge for most people. Most people know what they want, but the communication piece is that. And I don't think it's a question of tolerance is the energy of love. It's an act of self-respect. It's an act of self-respect to be loving. It's an act of self-respect to be kind and compassionate. And you're not doing that because of someone. It is who you are. So it doesn't end because it's who you are. Do you end? No, you don't. However, the challenge in relationships is always managing expectations. And managing expectations requires good communication. I can do this, I can't do this. I feel comfortable doing this, I don't feel comfortable doing this. Where you can honestly communicate. And when I say honestly communicate, you're always talking about how you feel in what is happening. That's honest communication. Dishonest communication is blame. When you start to say, well, it's the situation like this and this and this, and that's why I feel like this. No. Honest communication is, well, this is what I'm feeling rather uncomfortable right now. And for me to feel comfortable, this is what would be important for me. That's honest. So there's no aspect of blame in your communication, but it's very clear. You're being clear about how you feel, and you're also being clear about how you want to feel and how you want the relationship to be. And I think that automatically starts elevating the frequency of your relationship and just puts expectation to one side, because we feed those expectations. Maybe our previous behavior has fed those expectations, because, you know, let me tell you, people are exceedingly good at people pleasing. You know, we want to please people. And what we don't realize that in the mode of people pleasing, we're feeding someone's weakness, because people pleasing means, well, if they're happy, then I'll be happy. But tolerance starts when, well, I'm happy. This is making me uncomfortable. I'd like us to be happy in this. What's going to help? You can't put your stuff to one side to make someone else happy. You know, every person's happiness is their own decision and their own effort. We talk about making people happy, but the reality is you can influence with your happiness. That's what makes someone happy. That's all you can do. You can only influence with your happiness.
Right. Wonderful. Lovely deliberation, as always. And I would personally thank you for the 4 sessions which you have given. I'll be approaching you soon again. And I'll just request Dr. Ashok Mehta, who's also joined us, Dr. Mehta, to propose the vote of thanks to Sister Gopi, please. Yeah. Over to you, Dr. Mehta.
Happiness unlimited. That's what Gopi Ben is.
You're sweet.
We are so happy to see you and to see your smiling, smiling, smiling face. And everything that you say just goes through us. Thank you very much, Gopi Ben, for sparing your valuable time and sharing your beautiful thoughts with us. And I like your English, your Angrez English. Thank you.
Thank you, Ashok Bhai.
Yeah. Thank you so much, Dr. Ashok Mehta, for your honest opinions. And let me just share the screen, and I'll do a few quick announcements, and then maybe Sister Gopi will take us in the concluding meditation. I'm sorry, I'll just go quickly on this. Yeah. Yes. So, yeah. So continuing with our series. So, we are starting the month of purity. We are already in the month of purity, actually. And I'll tell you why we say this as the month of purity. So we have our next episode on purity. We have with us our very own national coordinator of Canada, Brother Eric. All of you have met him in many of our series now. And at the same time, we'll be keeping you posted with the invitations. And it's our very dear Dadi Prakashmani, who was a very dear former administrative head of Brahma Kumari's organization. And it is her, what we call the day of ascension or day of becoming Avyakt on the 25th of August. So in view of that, we have this special Raksha Bandhan Yoga Bhatti. And this is one of our special events for the Values for Life series. So we have 2 speakers with us, Sister Aruna and very dear respected Sudesh Didi, who's the European director. So we'll again post you up all those, and Raksha Bandhan is around the corner. It's exactly 1 week from now. So next Sunday, we'll be doing this. And as usual, our next workshop on purity after the talk is on the 28th of August, and it is with Sister Wadi from Miami, yet another senior Brahma Kumari sister, and she'll be sharing her thoughts. And as usual, this elusive calendar which we have about all the events, which we post you all in your emails as well. So please keep a track of the events so that you all don't miss out on those. And you can keep in touch with us, and mind well all the workshops. If you have missed out on anything, Anu sister is very kind enough in the emails. She'll be sending you this on, this is the website omshanti.tk/workshops. So with this, I'll just stop sharing the screen. And Sister Gopi, you want to do a little bit of meditation on tolerance? Is that okay? Or
sure.
Yeah. Okay. Thanks.
So wherever you are, sit up straight and relax. Just allow yourself to take a couple of deep breaths in and out. And become present in this moment now. Over these last couple of hours, something has touched your heart. Just focus on that feeling. What has touched your heart? What has touched your mind, your heart? You opened up a feeling, a pure feeling inside. Just tune into that inspiration, that feeling, that touching. And just let it expand from your heart into your whole being. Tolerance is when we access that deity inside. The deity of happiness, the deity of love. The deity of goodwill. The deity of generosity. As this deity wakes up, it brings with it a pure vision, and that deity is the doorway to a new world. As we see with the grace of the deity, act with the grace of the deity, we are naturally tolerant in our lives. And every step we take in our life is an act of pure love. So stay in tune with this deity inside and make it your best friend. Om Shanti.
So thank you so much, Sister Gopi. And Anu sister, any last comments you have? Yeah.
Definitely. Thank you so much, Gopi sister. We can't thank you enough. Deep within how we wake up to the reality through your classes and sharing. So today, definitely, again, we would like to not miss to take this snapshot and remember this moment. So I'll request everybody to open up with your videos. Of course, bringing that act of pure love for everyone. And what I'm taking is that it is for everyone because it's our choice. We don't end, our act of love doesn't end when difficult situation or people come as difficult to our life. So that's the taking home. Everybody opened up. Mostly everybody opened up. So this is the moment. Let's spread the love now. Just give me 1 second. There are 3 pages. Quickly, I'll take. Okay. I got it. That's beautiful. Thank you once again, Gopi sister and everyone.
Good night.